I remember the day we lost Chadwick Boseman in 2020. It was a day I was hanging out with my friends. We were all online because it was COVID, so we were all just playing games online, and I got the news notification on my phone. And I remember reading it, and I remember it like taking my breath away, like in the sense that like this can't be true. I mean, the guy was so young. He had just had Black Panther success. He had just been Avengers Endgame the year before. How could this guy be gone? How could this guy just not be in our lives anymore? And, you know, this is an actor that I first learned about in 2013 when he was Jackie Robinson in the film 42. So this wasn't like an actor that I had grown up my whole life admiring. This wasn't like a superhero film that I saw when I was 5 years old and it meant the world to me. This was a guy that I saw him later in my life, a little bit older. And yet the weight of the character of Black Panther, the loss, it just was tremendous. It was just so shocking. It was so tragic, just because of how sudden it was, because of how young he was. And there was so much just emotion with that. It was literally like losing someone you love. And yet I'd never met the guy. And I think that was the power of an actor like Chadwick Boseman, that he could garner such a response from me, that I just felt that loss, that I remember like all I did that weekend was watch Black Panther, and I remember crying watching it for the first time after he had died, and just the meaning that film meant to me, and of course what the meaning of that film meant to just a large community, just what he meant to children growing up who got to see themselves represented in Chadwick Boseman's heroicness, just this fight, this struggle that he had. It was such a tragic life, but it was such an impactful life. And with that all said, that's what this film, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, has to balance. It has to balance not only being the continuation of the MCU, the sequel of Black Panther, it also has to deal with the legacy of Chadwick Boseman and what he meant to the world. And with that all said, this film does it really well, and I'm about to break into details about it. I will be keeping it non-spoiler review, but thank you for checking out the Beniverse. My name is Ben, and today I'm reviewing Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So Black Panther Wakanda Forever. This is the, how many installments within the MCU? I don't know. I'd have to guess it's over 30 film installment. This is the sequel to the 2018 film Black Panther. This sees the return of all the original cast members, of course, minus Chadwick Boseman, who tragically passed away in 2020. And this is a film that I don't want to get into any real spoiler level for this film, because they haven't exactly been clear what's going to happen. Is the mantle being passed off? What's happening with the character of T'Challa in the MCU? I think that all works really well in the film. So I'm going to keep it really vague so as to not ruin that surprise. What I can say just off the bat, I already shared my trepidation going into this movie. This is a movie that has to deal with the loss of such an important actor within it. I mean, he was literally the star of Black Panther. He was literally Black Panther, and you could kind of tell the MCU was setting him up to be one of the main focal heroes coming forward in their franchise. So this film has that. Plus, you hear so many rumors about the production issues that happened on set. It just seems hard to imagine that this film was going to be made in any way, form that was comprehensive. And as talented as Ryan Coogler is, and he is an exceptionally talented director, this felt like a no-win scenario for him. It felt like this film just really wasn't going to be able to succeed. That first trailer comes out and it moved the hell out of me. I thought it was a really beautiful trailer, and I started thinking, maybe Coogler is on to something. Maybe he's been able to figure out a movie that will work and be able to be a touching tribute for Chadwick Boseman. And most importantly, that's what Black Panther Wakanda Forever is. The most fundamentally important thing that this movie needs to be is it needs to be a touching, loving tribute to Chadwick Boseman. And that's what this film is from beginning to end. Make no mistake. This is a film dealing with grief. This is a film dealing with loss. This is a film that literally has a Black Panther-sized hole in it without Chadwick Boseman, and the film embraces that. It accepts that he's not there. And there's always this kind of sensation that they themselves are seeking, churning, searching for Black Panther and trying to fill this hole, because so much of the film can feel empty at times, where it's just like not empty in just the content that it is, but just in the characters' actions. There's so many times where it's unspoken, but you can just tell characters like Shuri just are internally thinking, if T'Challa was here, would this be happening right now? And that's the beauty of this film. This film allows the audience to grieve with it. This is a film where all the characters are dealing with loss. They are dealing with tragedy. They are coming above it. They are rising to the occasion and having to meet the challenges of that and facing it. And it can be ugly at times. It can be really depressing at times. It can be at times a joyous celebration of what their legacy meant to you and to a people group as a whole, and what it meant to Wakanda. That's where this film just succeeds like no other. It's such a beautiful tribute to Chadwick Boseman. Do be aware, this film will make even the hardest of cynics cry. This film has so many emotional beats that are so well carried off by the cast, but specifically Angela Bassett, who plays T'Challa's mother in the original Black Panther and reprises her role in this film. She is outstanding in this movie. She has so many scenes where your heart literally breaks for this character and the journey that they go on in this film. And that's the most impressive aspect of this movie. Then, of course, it's also a superhero movie. And in terms of the superhero movie, it's a good superhero movie. It's a really strong one. I will say this film can be bloated. This film is 2 hours and 40 minutes, and it's arguably 10 to 15 minutes too long, but I never found myself being bored by the film. It felt long, but it also felt like a tribute. Thus, I was allowing myself to be in this world and experience what these characters are experiencing. And what does this so well as well is Ryan Coogler just welcomes you back into the world of Wakanda like no other. There are just scenes where I just found myself thinking, I want to be in this world for a long time. I want to just sit in the environment of Wakanda. I want to be here with these characters and experience this. And that's such a strength of the first movie, and he carries it over exceptionally in the second one. And that's also the strength when you introduce a character like Namor in this film. Namor is really good in this film. He's a really solid antagonist-like figure in this film. And when they introduce the Atlantic Ocean, the underwater kingdom that Namor has, it's the same thing as Wakanda. It feels like you are experiencing a brand new world and you get to play around in it. What Coogler does so well as a director is, I think so often directors and new films where they fail is they'll set it somewhere, but you don't have a feel of where this film is, or what the culture is, or what the identity is. This film, you feel like you know there is a culture in this film. There is an identity. There is a society. This is how they interact. This is what they value. This is the type of clothes they wear. All these minuscule details that if you look at it, you just think, oh, that doesn't really mean much. But then when they're all added together, it just brings forth this fully realized society. And that's what this film does so well. The two worlds that it gets to play in, it just has so much fun with it. And I know the original critique of the first Black Panther, I always remember the critique being, well, the film's good, but then that third act is just a CGI mess. What stood out to me when watching Wakanda Forever is this film is beautiful to look at. This is truly one of the MCU films that looks like it is $200 million plus, and the budget's all on screen. It looks absolutely gorgeous. The CGI is splendid. I'd go as far as to say it's the best CGI that the MCU has ever had, especially when it comes to the underwater sequences. They are all so well done. Leticia Wright returns as Shuri in this film. She is wonderful. She has to carry a lot of the burden of this film, and she does it with grace. I mean, it is such an impeccable performance. It is so moving at times, and she carries it with dignity, especially also when it comes to the action sequences. And she gets the main journey in this film, and this is a film of self-realization and self-discovery, and she does it so well, as does everyone else in the cast. You have returning actors like Winston Duke, Lupita Nyong'o. They all provide what they need to do in this film, and it is all in service of Chadwick Boseman. I will say there are some story beat elements that I don't know if I loved, specifically in the third act, the final showdown. How that is resolved, I still have some questions about, and if I like it. There's other thing where, without getting too heavy, there is an American subplot in this film, and it brings characters from previous MCU installments in. I don't think that's a spoiler without saying anything more. Those aspects felt like they were maybe setting up another film in the future. It's very minute, but those were scenes where I'm just like, were they needed within this film? I don't think they were, but it worked for me. It did. Nothing of this film didn't particularly work for me. Watching this film, I can give critiques about it. I could say maybe the story drags on. Maybe this scene feels repetitive. Maybe Namor's origins goes on too long. Maybe the third act has some issues with its resolution. They're all so minor compared to the overall emotional experience that I had watching this film. And when, again, this film needed to give me that. It needed to allow me to grieve Chadwick Boseman's death, and I needed the audience to grieve that and come to terms with that and understand it. This film allows itself to be ugly in those scenes where it's just like, it's embracing it. It's saying it's okay to cry right now. It is okay to feel. It is okay to feel sad. It's not a film that is above it. And in particular, the all-female cast really just allows for these emotions to even feel stronger, especially with Angela Bassett's performance, where she feels like a motherly figure, because in the film she is one, and she is both a motherly figure to Shuri in this film. She's also one to the audience, and it's allowing the audience to accept and overcome these feelings that we have. With all of that said, I really liked Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I wouldn't say it's as good as the first Black Panther film. I don't even know if it's in my top 5 favorite MCU films, but what I can say is that this film had a singular goal, and as a tribute to a lost king, this film succeeds like no other, and I can highly recommend Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It is the MCU's best outing in quite a while, and all the fears and anxieties I had about the MCU and comic books, films in general, this film really resolves, and it shows how dignified and how beautiful this genre of storytelling can still be when put in the effort, and when you have creative team like Ryan Coogler at the helm of it. And yeah, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I'm giving it 3.5 out of 4 stars. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this review of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, check out more of my reviews. Remember to like and subscribe to the Beneverse. My name is Ben Freeman, here from the Beneverse. Take care, and Wakanda forever.